What is up, everybody? Tonight you're in for a treat. It's going to be like a laugh factor, basically. We're going to be going through the weather report by Speed of Sound and Gravity, and then we are going to be looking at the comments section of Standing for Truth's last debate on modern day debate. So here we go. I see Standing for Truth is back.
Hey guys, it's Standing for Truth. It's good to see everybody. We are live and we are excited. Matt, how you doing today?
Oh man, good.
Good, brother, good. What do you think of my new cape?
It looks good, man. I didn't know you wore one, so that's good.
Yeah, you don't think it's too much. Usually this is what I wear for debates, but
you
don't think it's too much, Matt?
Nah, I would wear one in the desert, but it's a little hot, hits like 125.
Right. What about the Superman outfit? You don't find it a little bit tight?
Well, the only thing that I think was a mistake is we made our book too big. Look at that thing. I didn't realize it was an encyclopedia size. So
Yeah, that whole 130 pages. It's what I use to work out.
oh
All
man.
right, guys, let's get Superman away here. We've got a good one for you guys today. The only reason why we're on webcam for now is we've had some questions. This one is kind of an updated version. And I released the Kindle, which I'm glad to see that people are buying it and liking it. Now, there's a sneak preview section. So I'm going to go to the page here. Can you see, Matt, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can.
Okay, so right here, let's see. Okay. So this one, sneak preview into our new book coming out, Refuting the Critics of Biblical Creation, the first couple, Adam and Eve. Now, in this kind of updated version, originally it went on Kindle. Glad to see that people are picking it up and enjoying it. It's also been updated on the physical copy. September 2020, we'll have it released. All the arguments that you've probably seen from some of our favorite critics will be addressed. Let's see here. Some minor things have been adjusted in this one as well. It is for sale. No increase in cost. Sources section been updated a little bit. So for those wondering, it's about 130 pages. And yeah, you guys are going to love this Refuting Critics book. It's going to be part one. It's probably going to be, it looks like it's going to be about, probably about 150 pages. But the one where we got the sneak preview, this one's going to deal with objections to the created heterozygosity hypothesis. For example, objections regarding genetic diversity and alleles, some directly addressing Dr. Dan Stern-Cardinal. So lots to look forward to. We've got all our books here. Young Earth Creation Model. That's also been updated a little bit, right, Matt?
Oh, yeah. We update constantly. Actually, we update most of our books. We just we're always updating.
Yeah.
But it's nice to actually be done with one, but it's kind of hard. As you know, you picked up the writing bug now.
So we've got even the Why Human Evolution is False has been updated a little bit. Yeah, so lots to look forward to, guys. Today we're going to be having some fun going through some comment sections. So yeah, we're going to be going through. So you've noticed that the title is Weather Report. That's based on our good buddy SpeedOfSound. He does his daily weather reports, and we found today's weather report to be rather pretty funny. You guys will see for yourselves. I think our team here has got the evolutionist camp on the defense. So we'll go through that, and we're going to go through some comments. We're going to try doing, me and Brother Matt have been talking about doing more debunking the debunkers. And we've got videos compiled. Anybody who's interested, anybody sees a video that needs to be refuted, send it to us. We got a bunch from Apologia, Tony Reed, Matt Dillahunty, Seth Andrews. So we're going to be going after the big shots. We've given them plenty of opportunities, especially Apologia. What's that sound a chicken makes? Because he's got how many videos supposedly debunking biblical creation, and the guy's got no debates on creation versus evolution. He reads from a script. We're going to refute the heck out of his videos. So we got a lot to look forward to. So please, if you guys are awesome audience, you guys are rock stars. If you see any videos you want us to directly address, please send them to us. And yeah, that's kind of what is going to be our focus for the next little while as well when it comes to streams. Matt, and anything from you, brother?
No, man, this is just I just I'm excited to jump into it. I didn't even know we were going to be doing this tonight, so it's exciting. It's always good to have a curveball thrown at me. I like it.
It is. Well, it's kind of spur of the moment, this one, because last night's debate with Ron Garrett, the comment section in the modern day debate are just too funny not to react to. So we've been inspired by Kent Hovind, the science gent, to do some respond you to comment nights as well. So we've got a lot for you guys to listen to, look forward to. Let me see. Matt, what did you think about that debate last night, brother?
I mean, it was good. You literally gave him everything that he could have asked for. He would ask a question, you would answer it, and he just didn't like the answer. So that was the only real problem. You could tell that his argument really came down to just one thing. Well, the majority don't believe it, but that's a fallacy. So, I mean, if that's your only argument that you have, he really didn't prep for a debate against you at all. That's it. He regrets it now, I'm sure. Even Erica said he lost. So
she did, yeah. It kind of in an indirect way in the end of their after shows. I think the atheists themselves can kind of see that. Well, here's the thing about, nothing against their PhDs, but their PhDs have such a narrow focus that it seems like, and even Dr. Dan is guilty of this, they can't go outside their niche. Like Dr. Dan would rather debate, for 3 hours, just mitochondrial Eve, and if you get into fossils or something like that, it's outside their scope of expertise, which is fine. But when you get into a debate and you accept a debate offer and challenge, you'd think that you'd want to prepare a bit, look into the genetic related evidence, the biology related evidence. And Dr. Garrett, I've got nothing, I respect him. We've had some good conversations. We've talked off air and, we've had cordial discussions. I like the guy. Love to see him get saved, of course. But when it comes to, like, for example, you can check out his blog, and he talks about oftentimes that he's been studying young earth creation for years. He's been at this for a while. Young earth creation is pseudoscience. But Matt, speak on this for a couple minutes. Why do those critics that write blogs that are kind of militant against young earth creation, why are they never familiar then with our best arguments?
I don't think they're able to read between the lines. I think they can read one sentence and they can only see it from their perspective, and they literally can't see it from yours. Even if they try, they're so indoctrinated, either because of their hate or they've taken too much indoctrination from school. They can't look at it from your perspective. They just really can't. And here's a perfect example of that. I teach martial arts, and I like teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu probably the most. But, when I get a hold of somebody that's been wrestling from high school and then through college, and then they come and they want to train MMA, and I have to teach them to fight off their back, I'm like, it's okay to fall on your back. They can hear me say it. They can understand it. They can watch it in fights and say, yeah, that is true. You can fight off your back, but they can't do it. Like, there's something that's been so indoctrinated within them. Like, I can't go to my back. I shouldn't be on my back. It's almost like it's been ingrained into them, that to untrain them from that and to unindoctrinate them is nearly impossible. Even 5 years after training, they still make the mistake of rolling over and giving their back because they've been trained through that age group, when you're young, to only never fall to your back. It's a loss. Right. Completely bad. So I think,
and we know right when they go to their back, what's going to happen? Rear naked chokehold, right? I know you're the master at that, Matt.
Yeah, they give their back, they're getting choked. You never turn your back, but they can't grasp it. Just like our opponents today, we say, look at this. This is how we see an evolutionary bottleneck, and they say, well, that's wrong, because ours says it's this time. It's like, I know that's when you say your bottleneck occurred, but here's why that's not true. And they can't grasp it. No matter how much you try to tell them, they cannot fathom it. It's very strange. But then again, that's what indoctrination does to people, right?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, going to the MMA thing, because I wrestled for years, coached wrestling. I was so used to it. If you've ever wrestled, right, you are worried about getting pinned.
Right.
Then when I got into judo, a little bit of jujitsu, now it's a different story. You got to watch out for what? Submissions. You got to watch out for rear naked chokeholds, for example. So now you don't want to give them your back. But with wrestling, it's the opposite because you don't want to get pinned. So when I first stopped coaching in college and got into like judo, for example, and kickboxing and grappling, you really, as you know, you're huge into this too. I've seen your medals and trophies. You're a beast. You gotta change it up, because I found myself going, like you said, exposing my back, and boom, there you go, choke.
Right. And it can happen to you over and over, and you're like, man, why does this keep happening? It's like, well, you keep doing what you're not supposed to, but you can't see it. Even when it's happening to you, you have to untrain it. And untraining something is much harder than when you go into it open-minded. So a lot of these people that you debate, they're not open-minded. They've made up their mind already, and nothing you say can or will convince them. That's why when you debate for the audience, not to convince the person you're debating. It's not for them. You've already known they're lost. Their mind's gone. There's nothing you can do for them. And we know that. It's just like sometimes I get a guy that I'm going to train, and I know there's no helping this guy. Same thing.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there, brother Matt. They've already made up their minds, and I don't think they're going into these debates oftentimes that we do regarding like evidence for biblical creation. I don't know if they're expecting sophisticated, intelligent, science-based arguments. And it's so funny, Matt, because for years and years, okay, we know the gold standard of science is to make testable predictions. And I made sure to ask that to Ron right in the discussion portion, because I had a feeling, I almost predicted his opening and his rebuttal a week before this debate even took place. I knew he would just deny the evidence. He would accuse it as a gish gallop. But like you said, we do it for the audience. We know we're not going to convince the debaters. Now, here's the thing. Word for word, what he said was exactly what I expected, and what I predicted was that it was a gish gallop. It's off topic, for example, when in fact the topic is biblical creation science based. So we start with the biblical position. We start with Genesis. We look at the claims in Genesis and we test them to modern scientific data, and we make testable predictions. We make retrodictions. And that's exactly what I did in my opening. And so when I asked him in the discussion, I said, would you agree that the gold standard of science is to make testable predictions? He said, oh yeah, of course. And right then and there, anybody who is objective watching the debate should have known that this is indeed the topic of the debate. Now, Dr. Garrett needs to address the testable predictions, or like he said, he's not a biologist, which is fine. He should have made his own testable predictions. Because I was showing him that biblical creation, starting from the biblical creation assumption, the model, looking at the claims in Genesis, testable predictions and accurate retrodictions flow from that starting point, Matt.
Well, yeah, you have to have a starting point for any model, right? For example, on mutation rates, for example, how did they determine how often a substitution rate occurs? Well, they said, well, when was the last bottleneck? They go, well, the last one was probably about 75,000 years ago. So therefore, if that was true, then we should see about one substitution every 12,000 years. So boom, they make it as a retrodiction, right? That's how they do it. So they already have a model, and then they make their predictions based on what they believe to be true. We do the same, except for we use scripture. So I don't know why they get bent out of shape about that, except for they hate scripture. That's it. That's the only reason.
Well, real quick, and you don't have to give away too much, Brother Matt, but because you brought that up, it kind of sparked in the after show. Check out the after show, guys. It was a lot of fun. It was like 4 hours, but we continued the debate. CRISPR, our favorite critic, CRISPR, came in, and him and I had maybe a 20-minute discussion on mitochondrial Eve. When I have time, I'll edit that out and post it. It was a good discussion. And I know you listened to it, but I know we're also, so in the book that I showed on cam when we first started, that was the sneak preview of chapter 2. Once we release the full book, we're going to have detailed responses to the critics' arguments against molecular clocks, for example. But even just like if you want to briefly go over, like, what were your thoughts, Matt? What were your What were your impressions on the arguments that CRISPR were bringing forth? Oh, brother Matt, I think you're on mute.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, his arguments were coming from the general consensus of what most critics do. They say, well, evolution is true, so therefore these molecular clocks, yes, they're faster, and yes, they contradict evolution, but there must be an explanation. So therefore, yeah, they do not correlate with what our model says, but they also don't correlate with yours. So that's what they're trying to do. They try to break down the argument. But it's kind of like starlight, right? They go, starlight proves that the universe is old, and therefore young Earth creation is false. Well, wait a minute. Don't you yourself have a problem with background microwave radiation and starlight? It's called the horizon problem. And it's a huge problem for them. And yes, they do. So they ignore their own problem and are quick to point out a problem with you, right? It's kind of like in scripture, right? You're telling your neighbor he's got a splinter when you have a plank in your own eye. It's what they're doing. So they go, oh, these other studies that we're looking at, the mutation rate, yeah, it's fast. But we're looking at the dates, and then he gives his numbers, right? CRISPR goes, oh yeah, it's just here's how you do those mutation rate numbers, and he incorporates evolutionary standards to it, right? So of course you're going to get evolutionary results because he's using the math based on evolutionary concepts. And that's one of the biggest problems. They're not able, again, it goes back to you're not able to look at it from a different perspective. And he goes, oh yeah, Parsons got an inflated rate. It's just one study and it was way off guards, way off the limit. Okay, then, well, why did he reenact that study a year and a half later? And he incorporated not Hal, but Holland, and they doubled the amount of people in the study, and the results came back even faster. Notice he didn't mention that whatsoever. So in the first study, it was like 10 substitutions every 327 generations, and then it came back. Then he did it again, and it was 10 substitutions every 306 generations. So it was even quicker than before, the more people that they tested. And again, it was just, you said, well, why are we able to make testable predictions on these things then? No answer, none. And again, that's what it comes down to. That's what science is about. Observation, testing, repeatable evidence that you can make predictions on. They have no answer for these molecular rates. They just say, well, they just don't line up with what you say.
Well, and here's the thing, too, is I was demonstrating to him that I understand what they mean by substitution rates. I understand what they mean by, pedigree-based mutation rate studies. The mutation rate oftentimes starts off quickly, but according to their model, if evolution is true, at some point, given X number of generations, the pedigree-based mutation rate, the observable mutation rate, what we call the empirical method, will equal out to what they call the phylogenetic rate, or the substitution rate, for example. We understand natural selection plays a role. Natural selection gets rid of the worst, most detrimental mutations. Natural selection can keep a species as strong as it can be. It can maintain, it can fine-tune a species. We understand all of this. We understand that they oftentimes have to calibrate the dates with their assumed geological time frame, but that's why it always comes down to, and Matt, I don't know how many times we're going to have to harp on it directly in debates. Oftentimes, we understand all these factors. What are your testable predictions? Why are the creationist testable predictions working so well? Why is Dr. Nathaniel Jensen? Why has the observed mutation rate? Why has this led to an active research program on the history of civilization and not only the mitochondrial DNA, but the Y chromosome? Okay. And there's been confirmed testable predictions on the Y chromosome. Not to mention, we talk about that all the time. We still have no answer to that. Why is it working so well? And this research program on the history of civilization and the transatlantic slave trade, for example, regarding genetic signatures in the mitochondrial DNA, this is essentially a substitution rate-based study. And they mention substitution rates directly in the Parsons paper, don't they, Brother Matt? And exactly. It's still confirmed 6,500 years. And they've attempted ever since then to come up with numerous variables and factors to kind of explain away that that date, plus the sample size we were talking about. I mean, the sample size when it comes to the Parsons study. Any words on the sample size and why that's important, Brother Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. So the sample size matters because you want the most amount of diversity you can get from a people. If I go to the island of Hawaii and I only test Hawaiians and I test their substitution rate, I probably won't find any. Why? Because they're Hawaiians. They're all related to each other. So you need to test Hawaiians against Japanese. Now you can see a substitution rate, because
Right.
what we're talking about is we're finding how often a new allele arises and then matches fixation. So when you're testing one group of people, you're not going to find much diversity because they're all related. You need diversity. So Parsons went to the graves of basically World War II people, and he tested from then until currently. So he was testing a huge time period from people from World War II, basically your grandfather or great-grandfather, all the way up until the modern era. Well, at his time, 1998. And then all those people that fought in that war, which from America are, guess from where? Worldwide. So he got worldwide diversity in these studies. And then he tested it again by doubling the amount of people in the next study by the next year with Holland, and got the exact same results. So here's what CRISPR did. I noticed that he said, we obtained the rates from these studies by 33 transmission events multiplied by 50 mutations per lineage, and then multiply that by 25. That's the years per generation. That equals 41,000 years. But this is not the substitution rate. That's the genealogical de novo rate. So that's a different rate. See, he used that rate to get an older era date method. See what I mean? What Parsons did is he simply divided 133,000, which is their last great bottleneck in 1998. That's when they believed it was. And he multiplied that by 20%. That was the speed, the 20-fold difference between mutation rate measurements in the pedigree studies. And then he got an age of 6,650 years. Basically, you multiply 33 times 20, the generation time, and you get 6,600 years. And then I come along and I go, let's do it another way. How many substitutions do we actually find in the general population? Well, we find about 8. And we find at the upper end, it's around 18. So what do? We take 33 generations, and to such random people, after that amount of time, we get 2 separate lines, 1 mutation each line. After 66 generations, 2 random people from on the opposite sides of the world should have about 4 mutations. After 100 generations, 6. After 132 generations, 8. That's about what we see in the world today. After 300 generations, they would be about 18. That's what Parsons shows. So if you get 18 substitutions, which is the highest end of the variation, with a generation time of 22 years of age, you get 6,600 years. So it equals what Parsons got, and that's the observable rate. So notice that CRISPR used the rate to obtain an older date because he didn't look at substitution rates. That's not what he was telling you when he gave you that math.
Yeah, and it's just funny to see just how desperate they've become, to the point where they bring in somebody like Dr. Dan, and finally an answer to our question, a testable prediction.
Right.
And he hands us a paper, and we dissect that paper. And a simple question, Matt, was there any testable predictions in that paper?
None. Garbage. Garbage. I don't even think he read it. If he read it, he would have never given it to you. I think he thought he was going to give it to you in a live debate, and you'd be like, oh, no, I'm stumped. You got me. Young Earth Creation's through. And then you read it. After 5 minutes, you're like, what is he talking? This isn't even a pedigree study. It's a phylogenetic study. It's not even the study he said it was. Unbelievable.
Well, here, I want to show one thing. I'm going to go on cam here. So in Ron's debate, okay, he is somebody who literally said, go read his blog. He's one of those guys that says he's been fighting against young Earth creation for years. And his questions had to do with biblical kinds, number of species, speciation rates. How did kangaroos get to Australia? The same way that they get anywhere they go. They hopped. No, but seriously, there's answers to these questions. And if you look here, Okay. Somebody like Ron, these hardcore critics, I've got paper after paper here. Here's one, Dr. Nathaniel Jensen. Okay. I've cited this paper over and over again, even for people like Speed. Okay, when it comes to kinds, when it comes to how we can identify kinds, for example, recent functionally diverse origin for mitochondrial genes, extremely technical papers. Here's one. This is the one we're talking about recently. These ones have had no sufficient rebuttal or argument. Evidence for a human Y chromosome molecular clock. Pedigree-based mutation rate suggests a 4,500-year history for human paternal inheritance. Here's what's funny, and I put it in the community. Okay, Dr. Dan in the if you look in the live chat, and I made it clear in my opening. Okay, I made it clear that our last Y chromosomal ancestor is Y chromosome Noah. Okay, not Y chromosome Adam. And in the live chat, Dr. Dan literally said, oh, Standing doesn't know his own theory. It's Noah. It's like I've made this clear over and over again. It shows that it's like it's in one ear and out the other. And this is why I want to say there's a gentleman. He's a biochemist, highly qualified. Like he's a PhD. His name is Molecular Alchemy, and I've had a private chat recently with him for about an hour, where we discussed, it was a friendly discussion on disagreements, but we discussed endogenous retroviruses, retrotransposons, the functions associated with them. He's heavily invested in the medical field. And he would say that most of the genome is functional, not mostly junk like Dan Grar and Dan Cardinal would say. Now, I'm going to be having more discussions, but here's what I respect about this guy. He is actually open-minded. He's fun to talk to. He doesn't say things like Dan Cardinal, where he literally argued in a comment section. I wasted my time. He said that ERVs are not a separate class, a subclass of endogenous retroviruses. I mean, are we just going to sit here all day and argue about whether or not the sky is blue? So, somebody like Dr. Garrett, who is, and like I said, I got the most respect for the guy. He's a great guy, but he says in his blog that he is, he enjoys, he even said in his blog that he doesn't debate us young earth creationists to convince us. He knows he won't. He's doing it for the audience. And he says he's been studying it for a while, this and that. Well, then how come you're not aware, Dr. Garrett, of one of the questions he had right here? Here's a paper everybody needs to read. Dr. Nathaniel Jensen, mitochondrial DNA clocks imply linear speciation rates within kinds. These are oftentimes 30, 40 pages, highly technical, no serious rebuttal in any of them. So, and that's my question. So, Matt, it goes back to what we said at the beginning. This even goes for your theistic evolutionists, your so-called former young earth creationists. You talk to these guys, and they've never heard of genetic entropy. They've never heard of the testable predictions on Y chromosome, mitochondrial DNA. So is it really, here's a question, Matt, is it really about the evidence?
No, because if it was about the evidence, they would be able to logically step back and look and go, okay, I can see how you interpret the evidence. That's a unique perspective. I like that. It's different because that's what evidence does. Evidence doesn't tell you anything. It's there and you interpret the evidence and that's it. So it's the reason you can look at something and two evolutionists can look at the exact same thing and also disagree. We can also look at the exact same piece of evidence and disagree. So when they get mad that we interpret the evidence different, but yet they have people within their own theory fighting against them, that should really make them pause for concern when they bring that up as an argument against us. It doesn't make logical sense to complain to us when their own people do the same thing.
Exactly right, brother. Home run answer. Why don't we play just a couple minutes of Speed's weather report, his first couple minutes. Sure. And Speed, hopefully we can convert the guy one day. Like I said, Molecular Alchemy, great guy. PhD. You know, we don't agree, of course, on young Earth creation. He's an evolutionist, of course, holds to universal common ancestry. But we had a great discussion for an hour on ERVs. He's a great guy to talk to. He's not condescending. He's respectful. We're gonna have more of these. The one that we did just the other day was through Speed's channel. It was private though, so we're probably going to be doing more of these. But for the audience, yeah, let's play a couple minutes of his video and then kind of give our comments, and then we're going to go on modern day debate in that comment section, and we're going to have some fun and show you just how substanceless the comments are typically on that channel when it comes to the atheist. It was nice to see we had a lot of great Christian support in that chat for that debate. And when any of our brothers are debating on that channel, that's what we should do. We should be there to support them, because Matt, we know there's 99.9% atheists in there, and they're not watching objectively. Most of the arguments are going over their head.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
yeah, they don't even know what you're saying. They probably watching on mute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'll actually screen share. We'll give something for people to watch too, and just let me know. Yeah. Just butt in, and I'll know when to pause it.
Okay, we'll do that for a few minutes. Then we'll have you go over to the MDD comment section, because there's some goodies that we can have some fun with.
Oh, for sure.
As Matt's doing this, is this Speed of Sound's weather report video, or is it the after show video?
Weather report from Speed of Sound.
Okay.
Yeah. Hold on. I
take it as you're doing it. Yeah, I'm gonna let the guests know. Skip to the beginning if you missed it. I went over our books that we have, the updated editions, including the universal or separate ancestry, is about 130 pages now, because we put a sneak preview into our refuting the critics. Lots of citations, lots of quotes in it. We leave no stone unturned. And the full version of that one should be released sometime in September. But I'm making sure that I kind of I chase every rabbit, leave no stone unturned. So yeah, make sure if you just got here, later on, check the beginning of the video for some information and visuals on that. And also, we're going to be doing more debunking the debunkers. So Pelagia, Matt Dillahunty, Aaron Ra. Anybody have specific videos they want us to refute, send it to us. We're going to have some fun over the next couple months. So,
all right, here we go.
Hey, boys and girls, this one is going to be a little bit tough. I'm going to wait for this crazy YouTube app to start up and start blasting the song through my speakers. There it is. God, I wish they'd let you shut the sound off when you're waiting for a stream. Anyway.
Matt, I have a feeling he woke up screaming in the middle of the night. No, heterozygosity, no.
RJ already does that,
yeah.
It's happening yesterday. In the land of the polar Finlander, Minnesota, we're having heat indexes in the hundreds. Yesterday, and our air conditioner died. On the last weather report, I put out a challenge to Don Maddox, Beta Wolf Boy, Mr. Cojones, asking him to...
Wait, was that all of John's name? No.
Yeah, I guess it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to be 20 seconds worth of names on top of names, nicknames on top of nicknames.
I thought he was talking about someone else for a minute. I was like, wait, that's all John, I think.
To step up and tell me how he justifies saying that the free will, free not thing found for a brain scan that was apparently blank, and his minions are applauding him for his great find, that they've disproved materialism, and he has not stepped up yet. I looked at and downloaded a whole bunch of papers, one by Brass and some by Brass and Haggard, where they did some good work on free will and free won't. Brass has a extensive 53.
Pause it real quick, brother Matt. Yeah. So, to the audience, you guys are going to see this in the modern day debate comment section, but real quick before we continue, there's there's I guess a critic, Mark Reed, I believe was his name. He jumped into, he was kind of a loudmouth in the live chat of the Garrett debate, but he came into the after show and him and I debated on human chimp similarity, genetic wise. He was claiming that it's 98 to 99%. And I was letting him know that that's based on only 2 billion letters. They ignored the mismatch sections, the large chunks, the gaps, the copy number variations. And then we got into the Y chromosome dissimilarity between chimp and human. He didn't have an answer. I screen shared the paper. I gave him the paper. Apparently he read it. You're going to see this on Modern Day Debate comment section. And his argument, okay, believe it or not, you can't even make this stuff up. His argument against it was, oh, the authors, standing lies, standing misrepresented. The authors of this paper did not conclude what Standing for Truth concluded. Oh, really? Okay. These biased authors who hold to an evolution-based worldview don't agree that this is significant evidence against chimp human common ancestry and relationship. Of course, once you get into the discussion section, this is where the critical thinking takes place. And oftentimes I find this is the problem evolutionists have, is they'll blindly believe the conclusions from the author, regardless of how much of a rescue device it is or how many numbers of rescue devices there are. Like that paper has a number of rescue devices. None of them hold weight. None of them are held under scrutiny. So it's just funny because we've never said that these evolution-based secular papers come to the same conclusion as us. Of course, they can question the details. They can't question the bigger picture. They can't question universal common descent. They got to come up with explanation here, explanation there, rescue device to explain away the data. They can't come to the logical conclusion that we do. What did he think? He was going to get to the end there on the discussion portion, the conclusion, and he was going to read them, say, you know what? We've converted to young earth creation. You know, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can say. Of course they're going to come up with a rescue device. Matt, did you hear this over and over again? That supposedly we misrepresent a paper. We show a paper on endogenous retroviral functions. But then they'll say, oh, no, this isn't evidence for your position because, look, they resorted to co-option as an explanation. That co-option rescue device is nothing but fancy storytelling. Sorry to the evolutionist who just chooses to blindly believe the explanation from the author, regardless of how much of a story it is. Matt, I know you've heard this over and over again.
It's not even an explanation. It's a rescue device because they have to resort to something because, like you said, they're going to lose their grant money. They won't even have that study published if it was like, oh, matter of fact, all this evidence points to a young earth, but you know, that can't be right, but the numbers show it is right. So I guess we're converting. Yeah, that you wouldn't even see the study if it came to that conclusion. They need to keep their grant money. They need to get published. That's their living. They'll never question it. So they have rescue devices to answer. That's why Kondershoff has this massive book on why we haven't been dead 1,000 times over. And it's all him critiquing multiple examples of what he thinks are rescuing devices for why we're not dead. That's it.
That's exactly right, brother. Just like genome degradation, no serious population geneticist will say that man is improving, that man is getting better. They recognize that there is a mutation accumulation problem. And that is another reason why the evolutionists have to hold on to oftentimes the junk DNA paradigm. And I kept trying to explain that to Ron. Dr. Garrett has written an extensive blog on genetic entropy, but he didn't really have any explanation for the functionality of the genome. But the fact is, I remember when I was debating Erica, after we discussed for like 30 minutes the clear trajectory that does seem to favor genome-wide functionality, I made the point that even if we were to agree to disagree, just to get off this topic, even if the genome was only 10% functional, human evolution is impossible because that is still 10 new novel deleterious mutations accumulating through the germ cell lines, generation to generation, degenerating our information systems. Even 10% is too much. So even I know some of them would hold to 30%. Sorry, too much. Ape to man evolution isn't true. So that's why they come up with synergistic epistasis, mutation count mechanism. When these evolutionists that don't understand the problem of genetic entropy say that it doesn't exist, there's no problem with it, no serious geneticist agrees, then why are they constantly coming up with artificial rescue mechanisms to explain it away? Clearly they know there's an issue, and clearly they're fighting hard to solve it, but it hasn't been solved.
Well, of course not. I mean, they can literally look up genetic mutation diseases in the genetic database and look at the numbers, and they can literally see that 6,000 arise every 3 months. And that's with no beneficial mutations stopping or preventing these, or at least combating them to any real degree. And they'll still say, no, that's not proof of anything. Oh, okay. Well, good luck with that.
Right. Good luck with that. That's a great point you brought up, brother, because Dr. Garrett said that he said something in last night's debate that, man is clearly not degenerating. We're still here for, I love how they say, well, we're still here. Why are we still here if genetic entropy is true? That's exactly the point, evolutionists. There's clearly shelf lives on genomes, given what we know about mutation accumulation, okay? 100 new mutations per person per generation in the nuclear genome. The fact that we're still here means that our genomes are young. They can't come to the logical conclusion. That's why Dan Grauer's paper in 2017 has to hold to a genome that's mostly non-functional, mostly junk, or else evolution can't be true. If ENCODE is right, evolution, as we know, is wrong. When they just won't question the actual paradigm, the bigger picture. Maybe we're not as old as we've always thought or have always, purported. But so I pointed out the fact, like you did, thousands and thousands of new genetic-related mutation or genetic-related diseases every single year pouring into the database. A lot of this is due to environment. A lot of it is due to mutations. And we can see that cancer is on the rise. What is it, 1 in 3, Matt? Oh. Autism clearly has a genetic component. Autoimmune diseases, immunological diseases, asthma, allergies. I mean, everybody has some type of problem. Almost everybody's on some type of medication. Like, humans are not getting better. And anybody who would say that humans are getting better and not devolving, for example, is living in imagination land.
Well, they've never studied health, that's for sure. Because when you actually want to become a nurse or a doctor and you read through what the requirements of what's required, even for skin diseases, the book is like 700 pages thick, and it's a thesaurus of diseases that are just on the skin. Now imagine all the other diseases. Imagine how many types of cancers there are and how many different types of cancers there are just for breast cancer, right? There's estrogen dominant one, the testosterone dominant. There's BRCA gene inheritance. There's all these different forms of one type of cancer. And now, I mean, when you start to study health and you see how much sickness and disease there are, the problem is people don't see it because we're vastly growing as humanity. And so we don't see the problem. If we were in a small population of 12 people, we would see it pretty quickly. But with 2 people being born literally every second, the population is exponentially growing. So we don't see the vast amount of sickness. But if we spend any time in a hospital, you would quickly see the problem with humanity degrading.
Amen, brother. 100% correct. Let's continue the video then.
In 2019, where he explains that science probably isn't going to solve the free will problem for him. I really feel bad when really intelligent philosophers start arguing about free will. I mean, it is obviously a non-problem. It's just a non-starter. I don't get it. Someday I will talk a little more about free will. Maybe if John gets back to me, we can delve into some of these Libet's experiments from the 80s and what kind of set this whole thing in motion. Hold on a second here. So anyway, yesterday we had a debate with Standing for Truth and Ron Garrett that we were waiting for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
And
Matt, pause it right there. Now, nothing against Dr. Garrett if he's watching this. I look forward to more talks. You've been gracious enough to give us your time. Now, for me, I take debates very seriously. When I'm debating, I look into who I'm debating. I look into their arguments. I always try and bring something new. You know, Matt, we're always gathering new technical papers, adding them into slides, trying to make the debate worthwhile. It has been a long time in the making with Dr. Garrett. He's been on our channel numerous times. And I know, unfortunately, he had something in his life occur recently that, you know, I've been incredibly apologetic over. And like I say, he's a good guy. But here's the thing. You should look into your opponent's arguments, look into maybe what they are going to bring up, and have a counter, have some kind of rebuttal. Or throughout the debate, maybe use some critical thinking skills, because nobody is an expert in nobody has a PhD in geology, PhD in astronomy, PhD in genetics, PhD in biology, PhD in biochemistry. Nobody does. But when it comes to a debate and discussion in creation versus evolution in these types of fields, you know, you got to do a little bit of study on different topics, look into different fields, because that's kind of the point of a debate. And that's why you find like Ken Hovind, for example, before he went to prison, he must have had 100 debates in universities, and it was always against a PhD professor. And typically they were a PhD in something specific. And that was the only thing that they could ever even discuss in that debate. Anytime Kent would bring up like cosmic evolution, or you bring up the global flood, like they'd have nothing to say about it. But these people are so confident that young earth creation is false, and atheistic evolution or naturalism is the correct explanation. Isn't it funny, Matt, how the biologist says he doesn't know, the geneticist has the answer. The geneticist says he doesn't know, the geologist has the answer. The geologist says he doesn't know, the supposedly the biologist has the answer. It's this big circle where none of them have the answer.
Yeah, and we had that problem with Jordan. Remember? You know, I don't know that. He was a creationist. Remember? He said,
right? Yeah. And we wouldn't be so adamant about it, but these are people who make themselves out to be like they are some hardcore expert critic of young earth creation. Dr. Garrett Wright in his blog says he's been studying young earth creation for years. You get these so-called former young earth creationists. Why are they not familiar then with our best arguments? Why are they not familiar with the testable predictions? It's because it's not actually about the evidence. Because if it really was about the evidence, they'd still be a young earth creationist. They wouldn't be an evolutionist.
exactly. Well, that's what I mean. That's why he had to resort to just like, well, the majority believe it. It's like, yeah, we know that. That's not an argument, man. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah. You want to go with the majority? Why aren't you a Christian then? Problem solved.
Well, you know, Dr. Garrett is, I called him out in the debate for being guilty of what's called a double fallacy. So not only does he appeal to majority, so you'll say, okay, well, if you're appealing to majority, why aren't you a theist since the majority are theists? Yep. Then he appeals to the experts in the scientific community and said, well, it's the scientists that are accepting evolution in the majority. He's now committed a double fallacy. So first it was argument from majority. Now it's argument from authority or appeal to the experts.
Right.
So it's double the problem, because history is replete with the scientific consensus being wrong over and over and over again. So it's just for anybody who does use those arguments out there, creationists and evolutionists alike, I would refrain from that which is a logical fallacy. And I would also recommend even just looking into a book. Like I got a book right here, Discerning Truth, that goes all into logical fallacies that not only evolutionists shouldn't use, but creationists as well. We need to avoid logical fallacies. It's not a good way to debate.
Exactly. All right, ready?
It was supposed to be on biblical creation. Is biblical creation a science? And of course, Standing came on. Well, anyway, listen to this. This may make some sense for us.
It's really fast, but my initial impression was, so you started off with the title of the debate was incorrect initially. And then it was fixed to be the title that had been already agreed on is biblical creationism scientific? But why even bother? Because that wasn't the debate that happened. Standing was completely uninterested in actually having a debate about things like philosophy of science and what reasons young Earth creationists have for coming to their conclusions, and whether or not it's based on science or based on a priori conclusion. Like, none of this is an interesting topic.
Yeah, fair points all around. I felt the same way while I was watching. I was kind of like, all right, this is going to go one of two ways. This is going to go the way Ron wants it to go, which is a discussion of the philosophy of science, or the way Standing is going to want it to go, which is his general spiel. And Standing is quite good at directing the conversation, kind of, right? Like
there you go. That was sort of the crux of the debate. It was supposed to be one thing, and it ended up just being Standing for Truth. Anyway, this is Erica's after show. I did not get a notice about this until 5 o'clock this morning. I had no idea why. Excuse me just a second.
Welcome to YouTube, Speed of Sound.
I'll pause it real quick there, Matt. I think this is just the most important part. So how funny is it that when the atheists know that their side has lost, they have to resort to what? Gish Gallop.
Yeah.
The creationists went off topic. This makes me laugh so hard because Ron and I agreed pre-debate, and in the debate, I said, Ron, I agree with your definition of science. The definition of science that we both agreed upon was what makes the best explanations of the observations. And then I asked him, would you agree that the gold standard of science is to make testable predictions? He said yes. People like Dapper Dino, they like to spend 99% of their time studying birds, and, their scope is kind of narrow. Dapper's not really that good on the genetics, for example. This is why they all brought in Dr. Dan for damage control, right? But this also proves that someone like Dapper Dino, it must go in one ear and out the other, for example, because the debate being about evidence for biblical creation, if I were to screen share right now, actually, I will screen share. Because, and Matt, you touch on this too, because me and you are really good at, there we go. So starting from the biblical model, when we look at Genesis, and this is kind of how I started out my opening, and we always talk about this, Brother Matt, the Bible makes very specific claims about the history of the universe, okay? When it comes to biblical creation, now we're talking about the creation event. When it comes to humans, the universe, Genesis, for the most part, right? Is Genesis consistent with modern scientific data, Matt? We can assess these claims. Now, I oftentimes think evolutionists are going into a debate expecting unsophisticated, uneducated, unintelligent arguments. I'm not sure what they're expecting. But when we go into a debate or we go into a live stream or a discussion or make videos, we are testing the claims made in Genesis to modern scientific data and seeing if it's consistent. We are also making testable predictions based on the biblical creation model. The title of the debate is Biblical Creation Science-Based. No offense to Dr. Garrett. No offense to, for example, I debated Adam Friended months and months ago on kind of the same topic, and he was all thrown off too, like, oh, this isn't the topic. I'm not sure what they believe the definition of science is. They agree that the gold standard is to make testable predictions, but yet they don't want to address the data because you know what it is. They've heard it parroted over and over and over again, Matt, that creationists don't make testable predictions.
Right.
Creationists can't make testable predictions. And then we come up with retrodiction after retrodiction, prediction after prediction, paper after paper. I brought up the low genetic diversity. The first thing I brought up, which isn't even that highly technical, the Bible claims we all descend from two people, Adam and Eve. Is this true? The theistic evolutionists will often say this is symbolic, this isn't literal. Let's see who's right. We're saying it's literal. If God really did create two people, Adam and Eve, just a few thousand years ago, okay, 6,500 years ago, and in our last Y chromosome answer, Noah, this has very significant implications on genetics. We can now test this data to modern genetic evidence, observations, data, for example. So we should expect things like low genetic diversity. We should expect evidence for one Y chromosomal ancestor, one mitochondrial DNA ancestor. We should expect exactly what we see here in these papers. Harmful protein coding mutations in people arose largely in the past 5,000 to 10,000 years. Oh, fancy that. Gene mutations began showing up in the last 5,000 years of human evolution. And here's what's funny. And it's not just Ron who's guilty of this. This paper right here, okay? Genesis is clear. We're not related to the great apes, okay? We're made in the image of God. Therefore, we should make predictions that we should find lines of evidence suggesting that we're not related to any other form of life, including chimpanzees. And yet, we see the evolutionists. We're surprised by the Y chromosome data suggesting that chimps and humans are less than 70% dissimilar. They say it right in the paper. And yeah, they come up with rescue devices that don't hold weight. Right here, an estimated 70% to 80% of orthologous protein sequences are distinct between humans and chimpanzees. We know the homologous sequences are expressed totally different. Ron didn't want to talk about this. I said we can discuss this in the discussion portion. We know Eve's sequence. We talked about that in our last video. Pedigree-based studies go back just 6,500 years. Isn't it funny? The barcode study. I was shocked that somebody like Ron, and nothing ever against his character, no ad hominems, nothing but respect for him, just talking about the arguments that he brought forth. And if you're supposed to be a critic of young earth creation, how come you're not familiar with the barcode study? Matt, you know too, brother. We always bring up the barcode study, the Y chromosome study. They never have an answer. They're going to say they're going to look into it. We never do get an answer. The answer we do get typically with this one, we know, of course, they're invoking bottlenecks after bottlenecks, extinction events after extinction events. The point is, Speed, if you're listening, please watch debates objectively. The title of the debate was, is biblical creation science-based? Well, we've read about the claims in the Bible. We've read about the biblical claims when it comes to creation and the history of the universe. Let's test them. Let's test them. All of this data did not have to come back true. Imagine it came back that we had high levels of genetic diversity consistent with millions and millions of years of mutation accumulation. Matt, imagine, how would we explain that? What if it came back as, multiple mitochondrial lineages? Some of them being shared with the chimpanzees. What if it came back with multiple Y chromosomal lineages? What if the DNA differences in the Y chromosome went way past 4,500 years? What if the ALUs, what if the ERVs, the retrotransposons, the pseudogenes, what if orphan genes didn't exist? What if protein moonlighting wasn't a thing? These things did not have to be true is the point, but yet they are true. They're consistent. We can make testable predictions. Okay, so the next time there's an evolutionist who wants to debate us on whether or not biblical creation is science-based, they need to quit using the excuse that this is off topic or this is a gish gallop. Okay, you need to address the argument, address the evidence, address the data, make testable predictions of your own. Don't make excuses, because Matt, we're not interested in their excuses. We're interested in their results.
Exactly. I mean, anybody can make testable predictions. We've been doing it. We put them in writing too. So, I mean, we're coming up with experiments that can falsify our model. We believe it's true. So if it's true, we can make predictions on that. And a lot of these people will go, well, since young earth creation isn't real science, these debates will be real easy. So they actually don't even train for them. Remember Nick, that I debated my first?
Yeah, that was great.
He thought I was going to open the Bible and say it says it right there. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's right. They think we're not coming with any evidence. They think it's going to be an easy win, as if we're flat earthers or something like that. Imagine we went into a flat earth debate and all of a sudden the flat earther had a 12-minute presentation with technical paper after technical paper, prediction after prediction. We would be so caught off guard because we didn't prepare. We'd have to sit back and use that psychological argument saying, oh, well, he gish galloped. He's off topic. This is why they do it, because they're actually when the evolutionists use those arguments, it's psychological. Okay, if you've done any study on psychology, they know that there's weak-minded individuals in the audience who aren't really informed on this. They're not up to date on the science, and when they hear those things, they automatically think it's almost like a form of brainwashing. They'll think, oh, he must have been off topic. Yeah, if he's saying it so confidently. So it's all psychological, and that's what we would have to do if we were in a debate against a flat earther and they brought the science. We know they're not going to bring the science, but that's just an analogy. Same thing with your debate with Nick Suter. He was not ready for the evidence that you brought forth because they're not expecting it.
Right. They don't even think we'll take a debate on such topics, right? So, oh, I love that Latoli footprint there. That's so funny.
Yeah, Latoli footprint. Erica, I appreciate her approach to dialogue, to her discussion. I listened to most of the after show. She was respectful. She has constructive criticism. At the end, she indirectly pretty much admitted, I think it was pretty obvious that there's not always winner and losers in debates. We have a good discussion, but definitely I brought forth the evidence. Of course, I brought forth the technical papers, and she seemed to admit that. But she also admitted that she doesn't have a problem with a lot of the Australopithecine variants living alongside the Homo groups, which is exactly my point. This is what we find. We find they coexisted, they intermingled. We know that their bones were oftentimes found together. This is a problem for their human evolution story. And it exactly fits what I've been saying about a lot of the bones being the result, a lot of the fossils, reconstructions being the result of artificial species. So, yeah, they're going to have to start dealing with, Matt, they're going to have to start dealing with these papers, brother, without simply using the argument, okay, that suggests and that points out that the authors of the paper did not conclude young Earth creation. This is not an argument. I'm quite frankly getting sick of it. A couple papers here, for example, let's see. Orphan gene, for example, the sequences of DNA that code for proteins, but they have no apparent relatives. It's almost like if I had to proofread, let's say 5 books, let's say I had 5 different books in front of me, and every time I proofread a book, I found different sequences of letters or words that were unique to each book. That's what we're finding in our genetics. And then they want to resort to de novo gene synthesis and say, oh, you use orphan genes to demonstrate independent ancestors, but the authors didn't conclude that. Of course they didn't. Use your critical thinking skills. Is de novo gene synthesis, is co-option, are these valid responses, arguments, rescue devices, or are they just stories, Matt?
They're so obvious stories, especially when you're looking at orphan genes, because of the functions that they do. You can't say that these genes just randomly arose at some arbitrary time in the lineage of the creature when these orphan genes themselves are required for that organism's life and especially reproduction. So it's foolish to say that these random de novo genes just arose some time ago and that's why we find them today. And they probably weren't there in the past or something. It's just ridiculous. I mean, that you talk about a rescue device. That is unbelievable.
Team rescue device. Actually, since I'm on this slide, brother, I know we've both heard some comments about the FBI not supposedly adopting the faster mutation rate. What do you got to say to that, brother? You find that funny?
Oh man, that's just like, again, it goes back to just like, what are you talking about? That is exactly what they use. I can go down the list of, matter of fact, I can even screen share some things for you. The forensic.
Oh yeah, here. I'll stop sharing, brother. You're all good.
Sure, I'll jump in real quick. I'll show some people what I have on it. Show them exactly what we're talking about. Here's the book itself. Wow, that's a really tiny picture. Here's the book itself using forensic and DNA application. Unfortunately, I didn't expect it to be so small. Here's another one in the back of that book talking about how they use Parsons' 1998 mutation DNA sequence analysis to not only identify people, but, oh man, another small one. Resolve the forensic science like Parsons, who used mtDNA to identify soldiers' remains and to convict or exonerate suspects. A high mutation rate might cause them to miss a match in their samples, So they are using a mutation rate, contrary to what some of these critics say. Others don't. Others actually agree with us, but some try to say, no, 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 they're not using Parsons for that. Here's another one. MTDA substitution rates, are the FBI laboratories are using it for casework, the mutation rate of the mitochondria. Here we go again. Nope, that's from the book. My bad. Pedigree rates. These results refer to the analysis of the United Kingdom's forensics services that reported in Parsons. Again, they used his rate. They always seem to use Parsons. Notice that? There's other studies too, but they always use Parsons. His was that good. Really, really good. Hold on one second. All right. Sorry, I got to read a text. All right, screenshot on this one. A valid estimate of the mtDNA substitution rate is important for many research fields, such as forensic, genetics, mitochondrial medicine, and evolutionary biology. They directly state that mutation rates and substitution rates are important for those things. So when they say, oh, forensic geneticists and mitochondria, it doesn't matter. They're not using it for those things. They specifically say that they are. So here's another one. mtDNA for the control region sequence are employed by for forensic purposes. So anytime these people say, these mutation rates don't have anything to do with it, remind them. You can show them. You can pull up the studies and say, really, explain to me then why all these studies say that they are. Look, this one used Parsons. It used all these people to show that the control region sequences are used for forensic purposes. Of course they are. That's how you identify if a suspect is going to be guilty or innocent. You can't not know the mutation rate. You have to know who's related to who. So you're going to convict the wrong person. I really like the mutation rates, man. They're a really good piece of evidence on our side, because they all show that the mutation rates are not in conjunction with evolutionary theory. That's why they invented the phylogenetic method in the first place, because like they get mad at us, right? And are always saying, I can't believe you're using the Bible as starting point. Well, you're using evolution as a starting point. So of course we can use any starting point we want. That's what a theory does. You come up with a hypothesis, then you formulate a theory, and then you test your predictions on that theory. Jason, check your email. Check your phone. I sent links already to you. Anyway, when you're going through and you're looking at a lot of these rates, remember the pedigree studies came about in the late 1980s. Or 90s, I'm sorry. And they ran until about 2005, and then they started testing animals and not really people anymore. So what did we get? We found most of the studies that were diverse got a fast mutation rate. Every so often, you got some studies that came up with 0 substitution rates. Every time you read one of those studies, I want you to look objectively at it. And what did Stone King find when he found 0 substitution rates? He looked at a closely isolated family on an island, one of the smallest islands there are, right. And he found no substitutions, right? What did Jazin and Cavalier find when they studied 33 families? Guess what? No substitutions. Why? Oh, imagine that. They were only of Swedish origin from the same country. Again, of course, you're going to find less substitutions. You have no diversity of people group. So if you look at it with an unbiased eye, you can spot this. But if you're only looking at it through the evolutionary lens, you don't see this. You can't see it because you're blind to it.
That's exactly right, brother. And what you said was so perfect about the starting point. Now, here's the thing. It did not have to be true that all of the scientific data would have come back so that's why when people say, well, which God? You know, a lot of the critics, if you're debating just the ID or something, they'll say, well, you're not telling us which God. Well, that's exactly where we can do the testable predictions. We can make retrodictions. And all of this did not have to come back true. And then we would have been proven wrong. And I'm going to read a section from the new book, Refuting the Critics of Biblical Creation.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to read this. Oftentimes, we don't even have a chance in a 2-hour debate to go over all the incredible lines of evidence. I mean, we've got traces of Adam and Eve in our genetics. We've got traces of Noah. We've got traces of Babel in our genetics. So right here, I write, and this section actually you can find as the sneak peek in the other book that I showed at the beginning of this stream. So we can detect Babel. We can detect the Babel event in our genetics. Dr. Robert Carter makes an incredible observation in his article from the Journal of Creation. Can mutations create new information? This is what he says. I do not believe all current human genetic differences are due to mutation. We have to make a distinction between mutation and design variation. Matt, we always talk about that. There are a huge number of single letter differences between people, and these are mostly shared among all people groups. This indicates that much of the diversity found among people was designed. Adam and Eve carried a significant amount of diversity. This diversity was well represented on the ark and in the Babel population immediately after the flood. And the post-Babel people groups were large enough to carry away most of the variation present at Babel. Now, here's an important part. Most deletions, okay, over 90%, however, are not shared among the various human subpopulations. This indicates that a significant number of deletions have occurred in the human genome, but after Babel. Deletions are apparently not design variation and are an example of rapid genomic decay. The same can be said of DNA insertions, but they are about 1/3 as common as the same size deletion. The ubiquity of large unique deletions in the various human subpopulations worldwide is evidence for rapid erosion or corruption of genetic information through mutation. Now, here's the thing, end quote. We can also look at the Y chromosome. Y chromosome distribution is geographically specific. We can look at allele frequencies worldwide as well. It's all testimony to that dispersal at Babel. And we even see this with the deletions, the number of deletions found in the subpopulations around the world. Here's the point. Which God, the critics ask? The God of the Bible, because the Bible is the only religious text, the text that claims to be the history book of the universe, that is consistent and accurate when it comes to all its claims. The creation event, the flood, Babel, it's all directly, if you just want to focus on genetics, it's all in our genetics. Don't get us started on the 3 major haplogroups, indicative of Noah's 3 daughters-in-law. So Matt, you've heard that question. Which God? Well, obviously the God of the Bible. If everything is so what other religious text, Matt, that exists on this planet is so consistent with the biblical, with the modern scientific data the way the Bible is? Is there any religious text out there that even comes close?
No. The one that's the most that tries is the Indian text. The Mahabharata. It has the Bhagavad Gita in it, and it's like really detailed. You know, they go through cycles where the universe goes through basically another cycle. It implodes basically and then reforms again every like multiple thousands of years. But again, it has a lot of questions that are left unanswered. It doesn't make a lot of overall statements. And then guess what? When we look at linguistics, we find that the Sanskrit language, the oldest language that the Indian Vedas have, only goes back 4,500 years. So, you know what I mean? You can't have a religion that's supposedly older and the first religion that actually, when the very language itself isn't even that old. You know what I mean? You have to go back to the first. You go to the roots. What is the old? What goes back the farthest? And it's the Hebrew every time.
Yeah. So I challenge SpeedOfSound or anybody watching this book or watch. I just read from the book. So watching this video to give us a religious text that is so consistent with the modern scientific data, like the biblical text is. I challenge them, and I predict that they will fail miserably. So the next time, we only got a few minutes into that video, Matt, but this was the part that I wanted to focus on. The rest is pretty much him just pointing out the fact that, hey, listen, we are, well, pretty much winning the war at this point. So he's calling for reinforcements, which is hilarious. But here's the thing. The next time somebody like Speed of Sound or these critics want to say that us creationists go off topic when it comes to scientific evidence for biblical creation, just know that it's false. It's their way of trying to not have to address the data. They're not expecting there to be so much scientific data in support of biblical creation. And so it's about time that they learn how to watch a debate objectively and actually deal with the arguments.
I'd love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen, though. But, yeah.
If it hasn't yet, we won't.
No, not yet. But I just can't get over how he sees things that aren't there. It's like that phylogeny. I'm sure I know you've already talked about this. It's like that study, the mutation rate study. He said there's no assumptions in it at all. There's no phylogeny. There's no this. The whole thing was based on assumptions and phylogeny from the very beginning, from the very first line to the very last word. There's something wrong with that guy, man. There's something wrong with Dan's head. There really is. If he can look at a study like that and say there's no assumptions and there's nothing, he has got mental problems.
Well, he's at this point, Dan. Well, I've already challenged him to a debate on human origins, and I've challenged him to a debate on not just our first debate on Neanderthals was essentially, are Neanderthals a human variant? And I think I demonstrated that very clearly with the many lines of evidence from the many different fields. Now, his claim about hypermutation and inbreeding not being able to go hand in hand is such a ridiculous argument. We've destroyed it. Matt and I are about to put out a video soon on it because I've given Dan the chance. I've said, why don't we debate just that then? Since Dan doesn't want to deal with anything other than the genetics, then let's deal with that claim. He refuses to debate just that claim because he knows he's been proven wrong. This is the kind of guy who argues those types of arguments and will sit there and argue over the fact that ERVs really are a separate subclass of retrotransposons. This is exactly what the scientific consensus is, but he wants to argue these little details that Dan is the kind of guy who will debate a topic, is the sky blue or something like this. So Matt and I, we've got an entire playlist. We're going to add this to it. Debunking Dr. Dan. And he hasn't responded to any of it. So, and he's put out a video today on ENCODE. We'll do a video refuting that as well. But at this point, like you said, Jason, he's not really arguing. He's not really addressing any of the arguments. He's bringing forth papers like that one that was supposedly a testable prediction. And it was nothing close to a testable prediction. Did he even read it?
Yeah, look, I don't know much about this stuff like you guys. You guys get right into it, and I'm not. I could tell from the very first line that I read, I just rolled my eyes and just went, "You're kidding." And as I went through it, I was shocked. I was shocked that he could sit there on a video and say, "There's no phylogeny, there's no assumptions. It's all fact." And I'm just stunned. I'm stunned. And this guy teaches children. Isn't he a teacher or something?
He was, yeah.
Oh my Lord! He should be apologizing to those kids for what he's taught them.
Yeah, I can't believe that. He didn't even try to defend what he said about the study. You notice he never mentioned it again. He was probably so embarrassed. He was
exactly. He constantly says that we're wrong. Oh, Standing, you didn't disprove me on the hypermutation and inbreeding. You guys didn't refute that paper. Oh, you guys didn't address my arguments for macroevolution. But yet he won't respond to any of them. We got an entire playlist. That's why at this point, he's kind of irrelevant. And Jason, we were saying at the beginning, we're going to start doing more debunking the debunkers, but we've got a slew of videos on Pelagia, Matt Dillahunty, Aaron Ra. These are your big guys who, personally, I've called them all out to debate. Now, your big guys with your big channels like Pelagia, they won't debate. They're cowards. Okay, they're chickens because they know they're going to lose. So, for example, someone like Pelagia is so scientifically illiterate that he and his girlfriend Shannon Q knows as well. She's probably there saying, Pelagia, don't debate. You're going to look like a fool. And he says, you're right, sweetheart. I probably couldn't even pass a grade 3 quiz on this. So he'll write a script and then he'll read it and he'll post the video and he'll think that he's debunking creation, but he won't debate the topic. So now we are going to take on these big shots that won't actually debate, because they know if they debate, they're going to lose. They're going to get exposed. They're going to lose subscribers. They need those subscribers. Ron refused to debate against me recently. I know that. We attempted every which way we could to get it going, and he refused. So we're going to be doing debunking the debunkers, taking these guys on, refuting their arguments, making them look silly. So, it's going to be fun. And Dr. Dan, like I said, we got an entire playlist debunking him, and he can have his fun with that. Because at this point, Matt, what do you think? I mean, I haven't seen any legit responses. Have you?
And then that's the point is that really annoys me about them and Dan and everybody is that and I want people to know this, that we come in the comments section with really good arguments, and they talk about gish galloping, and well, they don't necessarily gish gallop, but they just say anything that comes into their head. It doesn't matter how unscientific it is or how nonsensical it is. All they're trying to do is to have the last word. So when, say, a fence sitter like an agnostic or somebody comes along and they see that comment and then they see that we just gave up because we're dealing with an idiot, basically. We give up because we're dealing with a complete moron. So, and then they see that we didn't have the last comment, that they had the last comment. So they just think, oh, well, maybe the creationists don't know what they're talking about. And that's their whole goal. And I know this. And saying this isn't going to give them any ideas, because I know they already do that. I've been watching them and arguing with them in the comment section for years and years and years, and that's all. And that's what they do.
Remember, they're comment warriors, Jason. So that's why they will spend the entire day in the comment section hoping to get the last word. But and that's why I love live debates, because you can just corner these guys. And actually, that brings us to our next segment, Jason. We're only going to be going for about another 15 minutes, but you joined at the right time, because we've been going for about an hour and a half. Matt's going to screen share some of the modern day debate comments. They are ridiculous, brother. We're just going to have some laughs. We're going to have some laughs and go through them.
I never laugh.
Kind of like Kent Hovind does, and he just kind of reads through the comments. To anybody who has joined recently, we've been going for an hour and a half. Make sure at some point you start from the beginning. We had some good stuff, some visuals to show at the beginning, some good announcements on future books and materials coming out. We've debunked arguments from CRISPR, Erica, SpeedOfSound, Dr. Dan. So we've gone through a little bit of SpeedOfSound's weather report video, and so check all that out. And now we're gonna kind of end it with some comments, have some fun here, Matt. So whenever you're ready, brother.
Okay, let's do it. I'll share screen. I actually just replied to a couple people. I haven't seen this. This is funny. All right, here we go. Hopefully everyone can see full screen just to make it easier. I'll pull it. Oh, I missed. Okay, there we go. Hopefully everyone can see. I can zoom in, I think, a little bit if needed. Hold on. Yep, I can zoom in. This is going to be good. All right, can you guys see it?
Yeah, well, a little bit hard, a little blurry.
It's small.
Is it? All right, I'm going to...
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll zoom in even more.
If people... Oh, yeah.
All right, how about this? That's a...
Yeah, and you could probably help us read it.
Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the first one. This is why I cannot spend the entire day in comment section. So I'm pretty sure these guys don't even watch the debates, because and I always find this on every debate, a comment like this. It's highly ironic that SFT says that the Africa bottleneck would lead to inbreeding and the Adam and Eve and flood would not have. Funny, because I spent 10 minutes explaining that, and I do almost every single debate. We've got video upon video, and I even asked Dr. Ron Garrett the question, how do you explain the origin of genetic diversity? You guys explain it by mutations. We explain it by created heterozygosity. Our flood bottlenecks were one generation. They were benign. Your bottlenecks, you'd have all of these mutations coming to the forefront. they're manifested, they result in accelerated genetic degeneration because they explain all DNA differences as the result of mutations over time. Our bottlenecks, what? So our first bottleneck at creation, Adam and Eve, one generation followed by rapid and exponential growth, no mutations at creation, nothing but created functional DNA differences. Second bottleneck at the flood, 8 people. Once again, a few mutations have probably accumulated in the nuclear genome, in the mitochondrial genome. The nuclear genome is 3 billion letters long. So large, I should say. The mutations that come to the forefront are not going to lead to rapid genetic degeneration. It's one generation, once again, followed by rapid exponential population growth. The next kind of bottleneck at Babel, once again, immediate rapid population growth. Your subpopulations, like your so-called hominids, like your Neanderthals, Erectus, the hobbits, Naledi, yeah, they become isolated, highly inbred. Inbreeding, even with our model, would manifest mutations fast, especially if those lineages are hypermutated. Not a problem for us. We explain this over and over again. Never fail to get a comment like that. And they're the ones that explain. That's the problem that the evolutionists have. They want to explain the origin of all genetic diversity by mutations, genetic mistakes. Well, then they're the ones that are going to have to explain to us how a population bottleneck 70,000 years ago in Africa that lasted not one generation, not 2 generations, it lasted about 1,000 years according to their model. That would be extremely damaging. And yet we're supposed to believe that population of 2 to 10,000, some say 30,000, suddenly in their damaged condition spread to all parts of the world, seizing dominion over the planet. I mean,
Right.
I can't believe I even had to say all that all over again. But Matt, isn't that funny? Like, I don't think they actually listened to the debate. What do you guys think?
Matter of fact, I answered that exact same thing when I was reading through these comments. Look at this. Look. Someone explain how a population bottleneck of about 10,000.
To see what I mean? This comment after, oh my, and then you respond, hey, read yours out, brother Matt.
I said, easy. How long was the bottleneck in the evolutionary model? Well, over 1,000 years, right? How many generations of interbreeding is that? Now, how long was the flood bottleneck? Just 1 generation, not a problem at all. Evolution has the problem, I meant. Not creation. The numbers validate this. I just said what you said, just in one sentence, in a paragraph. Funny.
Oh, it's too much. It's too fun, man. These comment sections. So already two comments on a supposed objection or challenge that we've dealt with a million times. Can you imagine if we actually chose to just not do videos, not write books, not do debates, discussions, interviews, just decided to let's spend all our time in the comment section and answering the same question 1,000 times?
It still doesn't get through their head. It just doesn't.
That's why I look at these and it's hilarious. And people would actually judge a debate by the modern day debate comment section. There's nothing of substance. It's all trolls. It's like that Lucifer almighty fool. That guy's got to be a robot. He's got 5 common lines that he uses over and over again. Let's see. He's probably in there some. Oh, there he is. Let's see.
Yeah.
Nothing but just
copy paste.
I could do a debate where I'm the evolutionist. I play devil's advocate, but because he sees standing for truth and doesn't realize that I was defending his story, he'll still say the same thing.
Yeah.
Because regardless, he's putting that comment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a copy paste from his book.
Yeah. That's a copy.
He goes,
I think there's an algorithm where it just automatically gets pasted into the comment section every debate.
Yeah, he goes, well, I got to go to my Standing for Truth folder. It's got 3 pictures in there. I can just copy paste from.
The same comment over and over again.
Yeah.
These are hilarious because these are all like the non sequitur atheists that came over, right?
Yeah.
And they hate that there's informed creationists now just schooling the evolutionists every single debate. Yeah, let's read a few more of these.
How long? Just quickly, how long ago was that bottleneck again? Supposedly.
Well, there was 2. They believe that one was called the Kurtoba volcano. I think it was in Japan or in Asia. Yes. And it was about 70 to 88,000 years ago. And then there was the larger bottleneck, which was about 200,000 years ago. So they have 2.
And So you have 10,000 feet. Basically, you have 10,000 females out of 30,000 people on Earth that they say would have been left. You'd have about 10,000 breeding females, and all of them would have had boys, and only one girl to bring that one line of mitochondrial DNA that we see today in the thing. That is insane. I mean, she would have been pretty bloody sore, mate. You know what I mean? It's like 10,000, one girl out of what 10,000, thousands and thousands of males, tens of thousands of males would have. And then if you look at that over 200,000 years, and then first of all you go from that one to the inbreeding would be insane. Can you imagine the inbreeding?
That's exactly
how insane it would be over that huge, vast time period. We're talking about Adam and Eve would have had no mutations. So when the brother and sister married, they could have children. They wouldn't, like, if you've got a bad mutation on one parent and a bad mutation on the other parent, and both those parents get together and those mutations link up, then that'll be expressed in the child as a bad disease, and children can die from it. And also, well, there was nothing like that in the beginning, so we had no problem there. And it's only 6,000 years. They've got to account for 10,000 years of 200,000 years of massive inbreeding.
And not to mention all the DNA differences, according to their model, are the result of what, Jason?
Sorry?
Over time. Well, I'm saying, and according to their model, all DNA differences are the result of mutations over time. So for our model, the majority of DNA differences are created DNA differences.
Yeah.
We've got some mutations. So it's not going to be, like you said, it's not going to be a massive problem for us. But they want us to believe that 1,000 years or more of severe genetic inbreeding. I mean, we've seen with the cheetahs, with that resultant, because when you inbreed, not only are individuals decreasing genetic variation by increasing homozygosity in the genomes, but those deleterious recessive alleles, it is a higher chance that they will come to the forefront. And guess what? I always say that inbreeding reveals the hidden reservoir of genetic mistakes. Guess what? All of their DNA differences are genetic mistakes. For our model, if there are no genetic mistakes to come to the forefront, then there's no inbreeding problem.
They're insane. They're insane. They talk about our brother and sister marrying each other, and they've just got no idea. How can they not see it? They've got this bottleneck so long ago, and they've got this like one. They would have had to have one, and then you've got one line of Y chromosome leading back 4,500 years to Noah, right? Because it got cut off from Adam. You've got the mtDNA leading back. I mean, and then God told Moses when he handed down the law to Moses, while he was handing down the law to Moses or something like that. At that point, he said that there shall be no more brothers and sisters marriages and stuff like that. Yes. So then that's because the mutations started to build up since the fall. As the human genome became corrupted.
It wasn't an issue at creation. It was barely an issue at the flood bottleneck. But by the time, Moses came around and the book of Leviticus was being written, for example, then we've had some mutation accumulation. Now there's a chance that those genetic mistakes can come to the forefront and result in genetic disease. And it was instituted that, close marriage should not be done. And that's exactly right, based on what we know about the science. And another thing I point out, too, that I never get a sufficient answer. They think they give an answer, but their answer is always based on the deep time. If there was incredible genetic reshaping going on in Africa, you've got the bottleneck, you've got Homo erectus evolving into Homo sapiens. But
did you see that? Sorry to cut you off just quickly.
No,
did you see that latest thing that I showed you where they found 3 Australopithecus, something Paranthropus, and Homo erectus all in the same cave together, buried at exactly the same time? Did you know that, Standing for Truth? Did you see that one?
Wow, that
is actual fact. It's a very recent thing. They found them all together in one cave, buried at exactly the same time. and they even admit that they know that these ones live together, and they've made up some wild story about how one lived for millions of years, and they sort of interacted with each other. Well, how did one evolve from one to the other if they're living together at the same time?
That's amazing. See, so that's exactly what we've been saying with Erica's arguments, in the fact that all of these so-called cousins of ours or common answers, like the Australopithecines, Paranthropus, the Homo genus, Homo erectus, which is just a degenerate version of Homo sapiens, they're all found together. They're all intermingled. You know, and
because they were apes. Because they were apes and humans, and even they admit that the evolutionists admit that today we live in when I say today, I mean in the past few hundred years of human civilization,
right.
According to evolutionists, or the last 1,000 years, we live in a veritable biological desert compared to what it was in the evolutionary past. I mean, we can see so many animals, so much genetic diversity. We see that, but you know what I'm saying anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're spot on, brother. Matt, let's read some more of these hilarious comments.
I am. It's so funny. But
Standing for call. So still no actual arguments. So far we've got hilarious ad hominems, which I've got thick skin. I find these hilarious, and laughter is the best medicine. We've got comments about inbreeding that have been addressed 1,000 times. Let's read some more.
I was just scrolling around. Here's a good one. Scientist. I'm a geologist, creationist. Okay, let's talk about biology. I'm a biologist.
I remember this one.
Let's talk about physics. That's the exact opposite of what we actually have encountered ourselves, kind of ironically. I bet you even in this debate, you probably wanted to talk about his specialty, and he probably denied. Am I guessing? Is that right?
Well, here's the thing. These critics, the PhD, Ron being a PhD, they want evidence for biblical creation. They say biblical creation, young earth creation, is not scientific. Then you bring them the evidence, and then their rebuttal is, well, I'm not a biologist. And then in his debate with Ken Hovind brought up a bunch of evidence for the flood, and he said, I'm not a geologist. Well, what can we talk about that?
Well, neither is Ken Hovind, so they're equal. Neither is Ken Hovind a geologist, so they're even. Exactly. Whenever they say to me, I'm not a PhD and I'm not this and I'm not, we'll say, well, neither am I. As a matter of fact, standing for truth, when I left school, I was completely illiterate. I could barely, and I left school at 14, and I could barely spell the word THEV. That's how illiterate I was. And I've gone from that to, you know, I've basically, school never taught me anything because I was a rotten little thing and I didn't want to learn, but since I've been teaching myself over the past 10 or 15 or 20 years, and it's, yeah, anyway.
Well, that's the thing. None of us are.
And I can still kick their ass on a lot of subjects. Sorry, my memory's really bad at the moment. I've had a really hard day. I'm really tired. I've been up for a very long time. I'm sorry if I'm you know, yeah.
No problem, brother. No problem. No problem, man. And our prayers are always with you. We got a couple super chats. George Bond says, unblock Speed of Pudding. Speed of Pudding is unblocked because, you know what? I'd love for him to watch this video and actually try and debunk it. Yeah, let's read through some more of these, because right here is typical MDD comments. No substance, nothing but atheist trolls. Bringing up arguments that were directly debunked in the video. Where's that comment from that Mark Reed guy that I debated in the... Okay, here's one. Oh, yeah, this is a great one. Look at this. Standing for truth, lying for Jesus. Let's see this guy's listening skills. He knows perfectly well humans and chimps are 98 and not 70%. I was talking about the Y chromosome there, bud.
Yeah, the super geniuses.
I'm the one lying. No, I think this guy is just too stupid to watch a debate and know what the art. And what's funny is I'm not going to screen share because I screen shared it earlier. The paper that I had screen shared for probably 10 minutes for Ron Garrett to address. Let me read the title: The 70% Dissimilarity. But this atheist evolutionist, you know, his IQ is Probably extremely high.
Probably
judging by that
25.
comment. So, oh man, let's see. Where is it? Oh, here's the paper at the beginning. Here we go. Chimpanzee and human what? Y chromosomes are remarkably divergent in structure and gene content. How did he miss that? I mean, it only says the Y chromosome right there. I think I commented on that one actually, Matt. I couldn't resist. Let's see. Hey, click view replies.
Oh yeah, you missed the whole point. Go look again.
Yeah. And look at him, no rebuttal. Look at this. DNA is 90%. So of course these atheist evolutionists, you know, they never humble themselves and admit to their mistake. They double down on it. Oh, bro, we got to do these comments more often, man. I purposely go on MDD just to laugh at the comments over the next week.
Yeah.
What else do we got? Oh yeah, look at these substanceless comments. Not watching. Okay. Well, thanks for stopping by then, bud.
Yeah.
Why bother?
Oh, this guy, Infinity730. Never once heard an argument from him.
No.
Nothing but novels of complaining. Oh,
Yeah, you'll never.
I've seen this guy say that I'm in it for the money. Ask my wife.
Oh wow, you make 25. What do you make? 25 cents on a book? Every book that you sell? Wow, you're in the big time now, Standing.
Yeah, I'll be a millionaire in the next
billionaire even.
Give me a trillionaire. Give me a trillion years and I'll be rich.
Yeah.
If we wanted to make money, we would be into like what's Joel Osteen do? The prosperity preaching or something. He ain't getting rich doing. Oh, here we go. Mark Reed, go down.
Okay.
So I debated him in the after show, and I really corrected him on the human chimp DNA similarity. He had no answer. And then I cornered him on the Y chromosome. Look what he says. This is what we were joking around about earlier. He says, what SFT? So he obviously got triggered that he got cornered in the after show. So he actually went out and read the paper. So he says, what SFT is doing is making up conclusion that the writers of the paper do not support. Oh, really? The secular paper that evolutionists wrote did not conclude young Earth creation is true? My mind is blown. Like as if we've ever said that these secular papers come to the conclusion that evolution is false. No, we're asking the evolutionists to actually have some critical thinking skills and not blindly believe the rescue devices that are provided. The one in that Y chromosome paper, none of them are supported. If they were true, we should find some highly divergent Y chromosomes in human populations today. We don't find it. It's there's incredibly low variation. It's incredibly stable. Even though we know the Y chromosome mutates fast, it goes back 4,500 years. It's not nearly as fast and it's not nearly as unstable enough to account for the 70% dissimilarity between human and chimps. And I challenged this guy in the comment section because, wow, that is a pathetic argument.
I've got to say it, even though it's a tiny little bit off subject, but you get the most ethnically diverse people on Earth, and you genetically test them to see how different they are from each other. And so you get a 7 foot tall, blonde haired, blue eyed German with chiseled features, very good looking, and you get a 4 foot tall pygmy from the Amazon rainforest, and they are only 0.012% different from each other. That's a 99.988% similarity. That destroys evolution. Every living human being on Earth are so close to each other. Yeah, that could not be if we all evolved on, if the human race has all evolved on separate evolutionary branches.
Right. Exactly right, brother.
And just one thing, they got slanted eyes, Asian people. Well, that's just a layer of fat in their eye that causes that. I mean, you've got black skin, you've got all these different looking people. It was like you said, Adam and Eve would have had to have been brown, because so they can bring out the white people are basically a mutated version of Adam and Eve, and the black people are a mutated version as well. So we're all in the same boat together. We're the whole world. That's why we call each other brother and sister, because we are literally the whole planet. We're all related, every single human being on Earth.
And once again, perfectly consistent with the biblical base model. And if, like you said, if Adam and Eve were brown skinned and had a mix of capital letters and lowercase letters, they were created genetically heterozygous, they would have the ability built into their genetics to produce every shade of skin that we have today. We are all one. There's one race, the human race.
That's
and
it.
Predicted
there is not different races. There's different ethnicities, not different races.
Amen, brother. Amen.
I noticed Lucifer Almighty found this comment thread. There he is again. Same comment.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh, he's added a little bit. Well, no, I guess he's added to it. Let's see. Standing for lying is dishonest and doesn't actually understand the topic. Okay. Another assertion. No evidence. He's a waste and a dishonest. He's a waste and a yeah. So this.
So all these people that you help. I won't say much about your work life, but all these people you've helped in your life and all this stuff you do, I won't say much about it. But and you're just a waste. You're just a waste of a human being. Yeah. Your life is you're not sitting there on the dole on a pension like me, a disability pension. You're out there working and helping people and doing stuff and actually, contributing to this world and you're a waste. Well, I'll tell you what, they're the bloody waste.
Right. Oh, he's Lucifer's a waste on these comment sections. Nothing but of substance. Nothing, and he won't actually. I think he's got to be a robot because he won't have a conversation. He asked, "Oh, Standing, how much biology have you had?" I said, "I've had 5 years of post-secondary education in college with many biology classes. How much have you had?" God. And then his response was, "You're dishonest. You're a liar." So I'm pretty sure he just has, like we said, he's got 5 or 6 copies.
You don't have to be a PhD. You don't have to be a PhD to understand this stuff. You prove that, Standing for Truth. You're not a PhD. You're not an MS, BS, nothing. And you destroy these MS, BS, PhDs. You just totally and utterly annihilate them, and they can't see it. It just blows me away.
Every creationist went to Ron and just said, "What was your education?" And he was like, "Well, I dropped out of high school and became a tattoo artist."
Yeah, but he's the go-to guy for.
He was a car salesman, wasn't he? Wasn't he a used car salesman?
For
Aaron Ra? Was that what you were talking about? Sorry.
Aaron Ra? No, he dropped out of school to become a tattoo artist.
He wasn't a used car salesman. Oh, I thought he was a used car salesman. Well, see, he acts like one.
Maybe later in life. But
Matt, let's see what else we got here before we shut her down. We're going on. It's almost 5 a.m. for me, so I've got to probably get some sleep soon.
Oh man, that's early, Stanley. You need to go to bed, man.
I know, but it's too much fun, brother. It's too much fun.
It is. I saw the super chat from George Bond, and then Speed of Sound goes, "Why was I blocked?" I blocked you, not Standing of Truth, and I blocked you because you had the audacity to ask him for a free book after you already gave him a 1-star on the last book online that you hadn't even read yet. So when you act like a bitch, you're off the channel for good.
Well, isn't that funny that he puts a 1-star on a book he hasn't read and is yet to get any rebuttals to it. So apparently,
he admitted he didn't read Jensen's book either. He didn't read Jensen's book. Jensen's book is all wrong and it's a total load of crap. Oh, but I haven't read it. He said that in the same sentence. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That they can sit there and debunk books that they have not probably even read the first page.
Well, remember, we misrepresent all the papers because the authors don't conclude young Earth creation. Remember, these are the types of people we're dealing with here.
Yeah, exactly. And don't forget, where's your Nobel Prize?
Yeah. Where's your Nobel Prize? Why aren't you publishing in secular journals?
Yeah.
How do you explain inbreeding with 2 people? Let's see. I think there's 5 common ones, isn't there?
Yeah.
Why isn't SFT a flat earther? Yeah, man. Have you noticed we've gone through this entire comment section of 300 comments and nothing of substance, no good arguments, no good rebuttals. I think the atheists just want to jump in there, leave 300 substanceless comments. So a random individual will come by this debate and maybe just look at the comment section and think, oh, the creationists must have got schooled. I mean, look at all these comments,
Yeah. Yeah, we're just sick and tired of. We're just tired of replying to nonsensical garbage. They literally just make things up off the top of their head. I can't think of an example right now, but it's like you just read it and it feels like your brain. Someone's grabbed your brain and just twisted it around when you read their comment. It's like what?
Well,
That's
right. Well, look at this one. Look at this one. If
Great.
biblical creation was scientific, then SFT would reference scientific papers on blog posts. I'm pretty sure that there's about 30 scientific papers in the. So the one guy had bad listening skills. This guy has bad visual skills. I even screen shared them on this one earlier.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Oh, here I've seen this guy a lot too. He's always around.
Yeah.
Oh, Gish Gallop. There we go. Okay,
he says this wasn't so much a Gish Gallop from SFT as it was the INRI 500. What was he saying? It was like a Gish Gallop on steroids. Oh, here we got incessant Gish Gallop gives me a
okay. If you're Gish Galloping Standing for Truth, tell them to get themselves a damn pen and sit down there and just write every point that you make.
Right.
If they know what they're talking about, it's not hard to write, just a quick point of every point you make, just a quick, little note of every single point you make. And if they know what they're talking about, they should be able to come along and debunk each point, individually. It's I'm sick. I hate that word, Gish Gallop. I hate it. I just hate it.
Read this. Have you read this? He just throws out random facts.
Random facts. Random facts. Well, that means that you throw out random truths. What an idiot! You couldn't be that stupid. Tell me, please.
No, they're that stupid. Oh, here's what's funny. So, I'll write things down. I'm OCD in debate, so I'll write things down. Like for Ron, I was writing little things down that he would say, and oftentimes, it's fast paced in the discussion. So for the closing, we had 5 minutes, and I'll do my best to address everything. I want to make sure no stone left unturned. So in my 5-minute closing, I went quick. I was touching on his arguments from dating methods, geology. He brought up distant starlight, speciation rate. So boom, boom, boom. I hit them all. You got to write them down. That's how you debate. Write down the points. If I accused him of Gish Galloping there instead of addressing it, the atheists have a double standard. They wouldn't accept that. They'd say the creationists lost. So I addressed all those points, right? So I touched on geology, astronomy, genetics, biology, all within a 5-minute period. Ron Garrett comes for his closing, and he accused my closing of a Gish Gallop. When in fact I was just addressing all his points from his different fields that he brought up. This Gish Gallop is hilarious. One of the funniest live chats I ever read when I was debating Dr. Stefan Frello a year ago. I saw some. I guess I was talking really fast for him. Somebody in the live chat said the poor German doctors never experienced an American Gish Gallop before. The Gish Gallop. If you want to see if you want to debate, Jason, just go in the comments, and if you see them accusing you of a Gish Gallop, you've done something right.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so sick of that. I hate that word. I hate that word as bad as any vile swear word or anything. It's just the most. Who cares? Who cares? It's just a way of you're Gish Galloping. Who cares? Who gives a stuff?
Poor Dr.
If you just sit there, have a separate phone from your computer screen, and just sit there typing in on your phone, typing in points. Every time Standing for Truth is gish galloping. Just write down each point. That's what Standing for Truth does. That's what you do, isn't it, Standing? You write down as they gish gallop constantly. And I noticed that you address almost every single point that they gish gallop on, right? And so get rid of this gish gallop. I really would like to go back in time and just
I would
Mr.
never,
Mr. Gallop
I would never
disappear.
say. In 70 debates that I've had, I've never told my opponent that they were gish galloping, because it's a bad thing. It's a bad tactic in debate, because you're actually indirectly admitting that you can't address their points. You're actually indirectly admitting that you can't win the debate, and that's what's so funny about it. That's what's so hysterical about it. Oh, we got some super chats here. Brother George Bont, I got my qualifications in a cornflakes packet. Very cheap. That'll boy. And look at George. George is a warrior. George is a beast. He doesn't need
George is smarter than me. George has got more brains in one fingernail clipping than I've got in my whole head. I mean, I've seen the stuff that he writes and the things that he does. He is very, very intelligent. He's very calm and very reserved when he speaks on the stuff, but I've seen his docs and his writings and things that he puts together. He's friggin' unreal.
Jason, don't be hard on yourself, brother. You do a phenomenal job. You got a brilliant mind. You're a blessing, brother. You know, this whole team, I'm so proud of everybody on this team. Everybody does such hard work, and all the glory to God at the end of the day. So don't be hard on yourself, brother.
No, I admit it, mate. I know where my limitations are, and I know when somebody's smarter than me, and I just admit it. It's the truth. He is smarter than me. I mean, there's all of you guys have got it over me. Everything that I've learned, just about, except for a few little things that I learned from watching videos, is all from you guys. And when I argue with people, I admit it. I often go to Matt and I say, look, this guy brought up this and that. You know, what's this mean and what's that mean? Because I'm learning. I'm trying to learn so I can, you know, in the future, I don't have to keep asking questions. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you get, it's just educate yourselves. Educate yourselves. Take the time. I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't watch television. I haven't watched television in about 4 years now. I literally, every spare moment, I spend it on reading papers and learning about creation science and evolution, and trying to educate myself. And what drives me. And when the evolutionists give me papers, I read their paper. When I give them something from, say, AIG, CMI, or ICR, that's just a creationist website. I'm not going to read that. And I say, well, I just read your paper, and I've gone through it and I've debunked it. Why don't you read that one and then try to bring up? They just don't do it.
You're absolutely right, brother. Oh, but Matt, look at this one. Dave Langer. He's also, I'm pretty sure he's another bot like Lucifer Almighty. Look at this. He says this one every time too. SFT still using things that have been debunked. Typically when I see those comments, I reply by saying, can you give me some specifics? And they never can. It's all been debunked. Oh, he's using the same debunked arguments. Oh, he's still saying chromosome 2 fusion has been overturned. Yeah, when we actually get some challenges and rebuttals and arguments against what we're saying. But do you see how it's substanceless? He didn't actually say anything that could help us. He didn't say, for example, this and this. No, it's just, baseless comments that at the end of the day just kind of make me laugh. Look at this guy. Oh, he's another one, the gym tanker. Yeah. There is no biblical model for he took time out of his day to write that.
I've seen this guy before. I never forget names. So I've seen him around for months, and he basically says nearly the same thing. I go, okay. I say the same thing every time too. Okay.
Oh, looks like Ian Chen. I don't want to forget you, man, even though you're an atheist. No reason why we can't get along. Do more debates, SFT. I love listening to you. Super chat, $5. Thanks, Ian. I plan to. I've done quite a bit the last 2 weeks, actually, so I'm probably going to take a week off, although I am kind of addicted, so who knows. And another one from brother George Bond. Jason, George is saying this to you, Jason. He says, Jason, you're underestimating yourself. Passion is worth its weight in
Yeah.
OKD. See, brother, man, you got some fans.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you know, I'm going downhill real quick. I'm starting. In some ways, my memory's getting better, but it'll never be any good because of the the way I've abused myself through my life before I became a Christian, a true Christian. It's like I love surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me. Did you know? All through my life, I can count on one hand how many women I've been with in my whole life, and I'm 50. And on two hands, sorry. And I've always looked for women who are smarter than me. I like women who are intelligent and people who are intelligent. So I try to surround myself with people who are educated and intelligent to try and learn. You know what I mean? And most people, they'll try to surround themselves. I notice with atheists like Matt Dillahunty, well, not always, but most of the time, they'll try to surround themselves with dumb people that are dumber than them, so they look smarter.
Yeah. Well, it's like on their Atheist Experience show. You never get like a Nathaniel Jensen on there. You won't get any of us. You won't get you, me, Matt, Neff. No, they're just, like you were saying, Brother Matt, that they'll look for people that they know they can bully and not look silly. And I heard that you can't even really upload. Like if I went on there, apparently I don't even think I could upload it. Which, if anyone has noticed that discussion / debate that I had where those atheists look silly, I'm gonna go for it. I was on there. I went on for the discussion, and I uploaded it to my channel, rightfully so. They gave me a copyright strike. If you notice, it's not uploaded to my channel anymore. So these guys know they got exposed so bad that Peter DeTucker or whatever his name is. He gave me my first copyright strike on a video that I uploaded that I participated in. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
Oh, that's insane. How did they remove that strike?
No, it's still there.
Oh, come on, Donald Trump. Please, Donald Trump, win with a massive majority. He's going to nail Google and all the social media giants to the wall. That's why they are going out against him like rabid dogs. They're just doing everything in their power. They're removing comments. How many comments have you written, Standing, where you've sat down and written a really long comment, with technical comment, refuting an atheist, and then your comment just disappears?
Even on your channel.
On my own channel,
my comments disappear all the time on my own channel. Almost every comment. One word out of place and it disappears. But it doesn't disappear on your channel, which is weird.
Well, I get so frustrated because my own channel, I'll get sucked into these comment wars, and I'll leave the best comment ever. Highly technical. Took me 15 minutes to write, and then I'll go on to like a different account to see if it's there, and it's gone. Nowhere to be found. YouTube removed it. Whatever. And I'm just like,
no, and they don't even have to give you an explanation anymore. If you read the new thing, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. The reason why they don't want to give explanations is because they just randomly remove comments. Like sometimes I'll just say, "Oh man, you're stupid, man." Yeah, I'll just say "stupid" in my comment, and they'll remove the whole comment. So you know what I do in retaliation? I remove the comments of the atheist, and then if they keep commenting and YouTube keep removing my comments, or Google keep removing my comments, then I just block them in retaliation. I just want to let atheists know the reason why I block so many atheists on my channel when they come on there is because I reply to you and my comment just goes gone, and then I go okay Google block, and that's just retaliation type stuff.
How do they choose what
It's
comments?
an algorithm.
Okay.
It's a random algorithm. It has to be. They could not possibly take comments down. Comments are coming down. Google have got a quantum computer. They've admitted it. Now, if you've got AES 256-bit encryption, triple encryption, it would take the most powerful computer on Earth to crack a password for a triple AES encryption. It would take it billions of years at the current thing. But a quantum computer can crack that password in just hours. Okay, so I mean, Google have got a quantum computer. If I was the government, I would be seriously looking at Google and And I'd probably want to be making laws that they're not allowed to have that sort of technology, because if you've got that technology, you're developing that technology, and you have that technology without government oversight, then you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. It's frustrating. It's an attack on free speech, but you know what,
what I'm saying is I've noticed since they had this quantum computer that they've admitted it, that their comments disappearing. I wish I could remember all the little details. I've got it all written down somewhere and all documented. It is crazy what they're doing. I mean, evolutionists are allowed to say whatever they like to us. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, and none of us can say, like, oh, you're an F and D or something like that when you get really angry, and it's just gone straight away. But they can say stuff like that to us, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, it's it's frustrating. It's why I almost try and stay away from comment sections in fear that it's just going to get removed. But so let's do this. So, Brother Jason, we want you to join us again too, because like I said, we were saying at the beginning, we're going to do more of these, more debunking the debunkers. What's funny is we should
do more of these comment things. We should just do an entire 2-hour video where we just do nothing but comments, because every single comment leads to a rabbit trail, which
Right. I want to do these commenting on the comments, refuting the comments more often. So hopefully in the next couple of days we'll do another 2-hour one. What's funny is Matt and I said we're just going to go for 45 minutes to an hour. Once again over 2 hours, but it's been a blast. For me, it's over 5 a.m. So I got to get some sleep. My wife's going to kill me. But to be honest with you, I mean, there's another funny one. There's Lucifer Almighty again, doing his job. I think he's probably like an 8-year-old living in mama's basement or something. He says, standing for lying is just reading his script of lies. Oh, man. Love it. But yeah, Matt, I think we're gonna you know what, you guys got some last words. We're gonna shut her down for tonight. I'm gonna get some sleep, and we're gonna be back at this. To the audience, thanks for joining us. It's 5 a.m.
Heavenly Father, I just want to say, Heavenly Father, please open everybody's eyes on this earth to your truth, love, and light, in Jesus' name, by the power of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Amen, brother. Amen. And Brother Matt, if you got some last words, we'll shut her down. Thanks for the audience. We've had over 20 people in the chat all night, we started at 3. So this has been awesome. Stay tuned. We're going to have some more of these. And last word goes to you, Brother Matt.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, it was fun. Like you said, it was supposed to be 45 minutes. I don't know what happened, but
I happened. I'm the sort of person, whenever you bring me in, that you normally read a comment and then laugh at it and make a few quick comments and then move on to the next one. If you bring me in, it's just going to go on a rabbit trail. So that's why it went so long.
No, hey Jason, we love having you here. It's too much fun. We'll find another good comment section to just kind of laugh at, refute. For the next time. So let's think of a good one. We'll bring everybody together. We'll have some fun.
Matter of fact, I have an idea. Why don't you make a voting post and have our audience pick what channel we should go to and read the comments from, like politics?
Oh yeah,
that's a good idea.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks to the audience. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a lot of fun. If you tuned in late, make sure you watch from the beginning. We did a lot of good data, a lot of good information, a lot of good debunking. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. Thanks so much.